Hello, all you beautiful people out there, and welcome to my channel. If you're new, please consider subscribing and liking. If you think what I do is worthwhile, please consider becoming a member of this channel. You may also donate through my PayPal. Today's topic is Daniel Nebuchadnezzar's Tree Dream, Part 3. This may be a longer than usual video. I am going to try to get through the entire tree dream in this part. There may be a part 4, but I really don't want to do a part 4. It all depends on how much information I need to convey to you. So be aware of that. Now, let's get on with the video. The narrative switches to third person as Daniel begins to interpret the dream. It should be noted that the author portrays Daniel as being distressed at the interpretation. Dream interpreters are usually unperturbed even when delivering bad news. Painting Daniel as dismayed at the interpretation is an attempt to soften the threat. Yet as Daniel makes clear, this judgment cannot be avoided. These details serve to turn our attention to the king. Previous chapters treated Nebuchadnezzar ambivalently, even though the dream implies that God is displeased with King Nebuchadnezzar. The ultimate goal of the narrative is to portray the king's redemption. Daniel divides his interpretation into 2 parts, just as the king gives the dream in 2 parts. In the first part, he summarizes the dream, and in the second, he interprets the dream. In this interpretation, he ignores some images while shuffling other images and elaborating on still others. Daniel tells the king that the tree represents him, specifically his greatness and sovereignty. Daniel gives no hint that either quality is wrong. We find a summary of the punishment, verse 23. While any reference to Nebuchadnezzar's mind is absent, it is abundantly clear that the interpretation focuses on his animalization. The detail that he was driven away by society probably originated with the Nabonidus traditions. Since people didn't know why Nabonidus was absent, they made up cruel rumors. Guess human behavior hasn't changed much. I must point out, though, that even hostile written versions of this event do not accuse Nabonidus of being mad. Daniel's author also decided to add the detail that the king was being fed grass, a common detail in Mesopotamian stories that denotes that one is not truly human. It is difficult to guess if this meant that the king was being restrained but also being cared for by his courtiers, especially considering that the book also mentions fetters. Then Daniel speaks of the punishment's purpose, that is, Nebuchadnezzar has not yet realized that his sovereignty comes from heaven. It should be noted that quote-unquote heaven as a term for deity is exclusively a Hellenistic term, and this is its only occurrence in the Hebrew Bible. The OG uses the king's destruction of the Jewish temple as an example of his arrogance, yet the MT only concerns itself with the relationship between God and Nebuchadnezzar. By shuffling the order of the dream, Daniel reserves the main image till last, hope of restoration. Daniel offers seemingly unrelated advice. Why? Put simply, no action can thwart this impending judgment. This diametrically opposes the Mesopotamian comprehension of ominous dreams, since the people thought that interpreters not only interpreted the dream, but gave advice for avoiding that fate. His advice to the king to show mercy to the poor does not correlate with the king's refusal to recognize God's sovereignty either. However, during the time of the Second Temple, almsgiving was seen as a virtue. actually the highest virtue that could soften deity. The Book of Tobit also promotes almsgiving. The scene abruptly ends with this: "It seems that the king took Daniel's advice, because the punishment did not occur until a year later. However, the king does not really understand the message, and his actions tell us that he has not really grasped the dream's importance." Continuing in third person, the next scene narrates the punishment. The author describes Nebuchadnezzar in his palace when God pronounces judgment. Interestingly, the king himself supposedly prophesies of Babylon's destruction by Cyrus. Then Nebuchadnezzar disappears from the narrative. In Daniel 4, the king boasts about his achievements. The Neo-Babylonian Empire, in addition to being renowned for more records than we will ever need, is also known for its building projects. Because of Nebuchadnezzar's long reign, he built many, many projects. He had built a palace for himself, restored Marduk's temple, and built fortification walls, as well as other projects. Babylon became a legend among the ancient world, known for its awe-inspiring magnificence. The projects not only served social, religious, and military functions, it also provided royal propaganda. Interestingly, the Persians emphasized the propaganda more than the Babylonians did. In fact, we can see Persian royal ideology through their buildings. Both Babylonian kings and Persian kings saw themselves as servants of their respective gods, and that they ruled through the will of Marduk and Ahura Mazda respectively. Daniel 4 addresses this ideology, although the writer has the king attribute buildings to himself, not his god. No one sees a figure when this decree is given, but the king does hear a voice, no doubt a holy watcher. Such voices become common in later Jewish and Christian writings. Rabbinic tradition states that the heavenly voice communicated after prophecy stopped. This voice describes his punishment as loss of kingship, while the OG tells us broadly who took over. The MT only focuses on Nebuchadnezzar. God enacts the decree the moment the voice speaks. At this point, the author introduces a new feature. The king's hair and nails grow long to look like a vulture. In Mesopotamia, we find demons and the dead described with bird-like features, a motif carried into Israelite literature. This experience is not only educational but transformative. His understanding does not come slowly. When the appointed time comes, he is restored, but with a new understanding. His counselors and nobles restored him to his throne. However, his new comprehension altered his rule. In his doxology, he emphasized that the Jewish God rules eternally, with the rest of the doxology using Isaiah's phrasing to emphasize the great power of this God. Before his counselors arrive, God restores his splendor and radiance, which made kings godlike. Three words used here also appear in his boast, indicating that these are not negative in and of themselves. What makes them wrong in the boast is not recognizing their divine source. We can compare this experience with the Rite of Passage. In such rites, one is stripped of status and separated. The quote-unquote 7 seasons indicates his deprivations and humiliations, but he finally receives knowledge. Afterwards, he reintegrates into society, but as a transformed person with a new status. This focus is part of the broader Persian and Hellenistic Jewish literature that comments on arrogance and transformed understanding. A parallel can be found in 2 Chronicles 33:10-16, where we read that Manasseh's captivity and suffering, after which he recognizes God as sovereign. This representation allowed the Jews to address the psychological wound made when the king destroyed the temple in Jerusalem. Daniel 4 thus does not give the king an autonomous role. In contrast, Jeremiah presents Nebuchadnezzar as a redeemed sinner. The Nebuchadnezzar cycle acknowledges the political realities, but creates a counter-narrative in which they implicitly recognize that the ruling regime was placed there by God. Well, friends, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit that like button, press the subscribe button. And if you want to know when I come out with new content, hit the bell next to the subscribe button. Please comment in the comment section. Not only do I love hearing from you, but it also triggers the YouTube algorithm. If you would like to join this channel, it would help me improve. So the join link is in the description, and there's a join button below the video. I did get through the entire tree dream in this part, so there will not be a part 4. And anyway, have fun and be safe, and I will see you guys later. Keep learning and searching for truth. Here are a few videos from my library. If you have not watched them, please watch them and tell me what you think. Until next time, friends, stay safe and goodbye.